Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, we're here to give you the top 12 plays for NBA today early on. We're here to smack you on a Saturday. That's right, it's Saturday, February 20th. And oh, you didn't think you were going to get into this video, weekend content from your boy, without knowing what the national calendar days were? Podcast people, how you doing? The party people out there on YouTube, happy National Comfy Day. Get comfy today. Happy National Muffin Day. You can celebrate both of those. Get yourself a muffin, get comfy, and you can celebrate this one as well. Love your pet day. Man, you be laying on your couch, all comfy out there, get a nice little muffin with you, your dog, your cat, your whatever, your snake, if you're somebody that's got some bugs and shit like that, whatever it might be, to each their own. Celebrate them all. And then if you like cherry pie day, it's also that, but that's coming in last for me personally. I don't got no pets out here. Might go to the pet store, might get myself a nice little pistachio muffin. And okay, people out there judging me because they haven't had one yet, don't knock it till you try it. My uncle got me onto these things. They're fucking good. 1,000 calories, but my Uncle Louie got me onto them and they're pretty damn good. And then comfy day. Oh, I'm comfy right now. Your boy's got slippers on. You can't see below the trunks. Don't worry, we got the pants on, but your boy's got slippers on and it's feeling real good right now. So, happy National all those days to you. Where else are you going to go? Where are you going to go in the DFS and betting space, and somebody's going to hit you with every single holiday to start your Saturday off nice? Maybe you're somewhere where it's not sunny out. Maybe you're somewhere where it's cold out. And now you're like, okay, I actually got some plans today. I'm going to go get myself a motherfucking pistachio muffin and a motherfucking snake. Couldn't think of a better way to start the day. So thank you all for being here so much. We're going to go through, it's just 5 games, right? One of the games got canceled, so it's just going to be 5 games today. It's relatively easy to go through. We got the top 12 picks, the Dollaruski dozen, if you will. We're going to smack you around with all of them as we're here. But before we do, like button for me, right? But also, if you're not already subscribed, and there's a really good chance since we're changing the format of these, we're giving you the top 12 plays. It's as simple as that. We'll update them throughout the day on Patreon. So if you want to see all the projections, rankings, and all that type of stuff. Also for MMA, there's a fight today, so be sure to check that out. Content on Patreon for tools, projections, increases your chances of winning down below. But if you're brand new because it's the weekend and there's less people making content on the weekend, we got you. We got you, fam. We got you, ladies. We got you, gentlemen. And oh yeah, we got you, them fellas. So appreciate you being here right now. And also, if you're watching on YouTube right now, we got you, fellas. Hey, look at that little pop-up. That's what we're doing out there. So be sure to do all those things. And also follow me on Instagram. Twitter, of course, at Vetri DFS. That goes without saying in this space of DFS and sports betting. That's where the community lives. But Instagram as well. We're building up that side of it. I'm basically posting daily there right now, these one little short minute clips. And on Twitter, but on Instagram, they're kind of housed there, right, in your feed. These one little short minute clips on comedy. They're basically a little mashup. They're hard to explain, but be sure to get over there. Sal_Vetri over on Instagram. I think you're going to like what's going on over there. I think you're going to be enjoying that. So as we get into it, letting you know who's being sponsored in part in this show, it's going to be brought to you by Jock Market. This is you got to pay attention here. Fantasy sports meeting a stock exchange. Bang. They're colliding them together. The biggest bang since the Big Bang itself. You can now buy shares in players. If you had a guy go to your college, a high school, or somebody on your favorite team that you're like, I knew this guy was going to be good. I wanted to get on Karis LeVert before he ended up blowing up with the Nets and these types of things, right? I knew Ja Morant was going to be fantastic, right? All this type of stuff. You can now buy shares of players. You can buy shares of them. You can buy shares of their success on each and every night. And based on their fantasy points where they score on that night, 5-game slate tonight, you'll be able to get some positive ROI and profit. I'm telling you, Jock Market's a ton of fun. It's free to download. Download it down below. There's a link in the description, or you can just download it on whatever app that you're using or whatever phone you have service. You download it for free. You can play in the free contest where you can win some real money. So no risk on your end, right? Just download the app. No risk on your end. You can actually try and win $50, so there's no risk there. And then you also get $20 for free upon your first deposit. So if you deposit the minimum of $10, they'll give you $20 if you use the code SAL20. That is SAL20, SAL20. And again, this is the present and the future. The Jock Market, we have a Tuesday night show every single week starting last week called The Opening Bell, specifically for Jock Market. I don't do that for anything. I don't make specific shows for other companies out there unless they're kind of one of the heavy hitters like a DraftKings. I believe in the upside and the future of Jock Market. It's a ton of fun. Let's get into it together tonight. Let's get into that Jock Market. You can buy and sell live. So if you have any questions on Jock Market, they have some tutorials on their YouTube and in the app itself. And you can also reach out to me. Again, that code SAL20, SAL20, lets them know that you came from your boy. So let's start up. The number 12 play on the day is Mr. Tyler Hero at $6,300. He has a 1.55x multiplier over on SuperDraft. So here's the thing with Tyler Hero tonight, right? When you're taking guys off the court, and you have to put Jimmy Butler on because he missed some games, but Tyler Hero is still averaging like 0.9, 0.92, even 0.95, depending on who you're taking off the court, points per minute with no Goran Dragic on the court this year. And if you're looking at guys to compare him to in that price range right now, you're looking at guys kind of like in similar positions, maybe something like a Gary Trent. And Gary Trent this season, when Jimmy Butler actually plays, is only averaging 0.79 fantasy points per minute. So Tyler Hero at $6,300, our number 12 play today for a guy who on the season right now, again, Jimmy Butler missed some games, 0.95 fantasy points per minute. But the bigger one is that you're getting him to average over 34 minutes per game at this point. A team total of around 105 is not great against the Lakers today, but we'll take it. He's our number 12 play. And our number 11 play on the day is going to be Brandon Clark. But, and this is a big old booty. We have to see what happens with Dillon Brooks. They played yesterday. They're on a back-to-back tonight. Dillon Brooks ended up missing. If Dillon Brooks plays, he's jumping into the top 12. Brandon Clark is getting dropped down. Brandon Clark started in place of the injured Dillon Brooks. He played over 32 minutes in that game. He looked pretty decent out there. Like, honestly, he played 32 minutes, and he, like, barely gets you there at 5.5, right? He gets you, like, 28 fantasy points. That's not going to happen all that often. Now you're facing a team that has a lot of power forwards, but none of them crazy oversized. A Jay Crowder, a Cam Johnson, a Dario Saric in Phoenix. Brandon Clark will be able to have success there if he indeed starts again. If not, again, if Dillon Brooks is playing and starting at 5,200, and I could project him comfortably, no minutes limit for around 29 minutes, yes, he's going to be a bottom low price point. That's the cheapest we've seen Dillon Brooks in quite some time, and he's going to be popping up as definitely one of the top 12 plays and more than likely a top 10 play. In the season with no Dillon Brooks out there, Clark has averaged 0.9 fantasy points per minute, a 20% usage rate, and the rebounding rate around 17%. Now, Jonas Valanciunas missed some of those games, so it's going to be a little bit skewed one way or the other. Probably see lesser of a rebounding rate playing a lot alongside Jonas Valanciunas when he's not in foul trouble, but that's why he comes in as our number 11 play on the slate. Again, it is just a 5-game slate. Some of these teams are massively like just appropriate / overpriced, like Washington. Hard to get any value off the bone in Washington today. So on a 5-game slate, we only have 10 teams. I'm not really interested in Washington. Spoiler alert for our top 10. So now I'm down to 9 teams, and there's some other teams that are kind of like that outside of a player or two. But now let me introduce you, walk your way down, come out the red carpet. Let's roll it out for our top 10 overall plays, starting with Mr. number 10 overall, DeAndre Ayton. And I know what you're saying. Sal, why do I want to be playing DeAndre Ayton? He's been terrible as of late. Okay, well, here's the thing about DeAndre Ayton. They played yesterday. DeAndre Ayton looked like a quality play. I mean, you had, outside of Chris Paul, I didn't see Chris Paul's 19 assist game coming, right? Chris Paul ends up going off for like 50, high 50s in fantasy points. But DeAndre Ayton, very quietly, 41.5 points. Very quietly now for DeAndre Ayton in back-to-back games because these games are actually staying closer. 35 minutes in each of the past couple of games. There's a little bit of a stretch in there where the games are going into blowouts. He was getting in some foul trouble, right? He's now played in 3 straight games, 30 or more minutes. The game before that, he got into a little bit of foul trouble. It blew out late. He only played 27 minutes against Philadelphia. But outside of that, if you want to scroll back a little bit more, he's playing 39, 37 minutes, 33 minutes. He's scoring 36, 45 fantasy points. He's way too underpriced, DeAndre Ayton, at this point, based on what this man can do. DeAndre Ayton is currently averaging 1.04 fantasy points per minute, which is much less than when Chris Paul wasn't there. I mean, this is a guy who should be averaging above 1.1 fantasy points per minute. If you can get 32 plus minutes out of him, we're seeing that the last couple of games. We're seeing that a lot over the last couple of weeks. A guy who's going to average in this matchup against Jonas Valanciunas in Memphis. Jonas Valanciunas, not somebody, both these guys that can really leave the paint all that much. Somewhere around probably 1.06 fantasy points per minute. I do like that for the minutes that you're probably going to be getting out of him as our at least number 10 play on the slate. I think he's probably about $400 underpriced based on where my early projections, you can follow them down below on Patreon, are currently coming in. Another center at number 9, and it's going to be Mr. Enes Kanter, coming off of just a piss poor game. I'll be honest with you. It was an outlier game from a rebounding standpoint. Look, he's going to be 6,900, and yes, I do, based on where we have them ranked, they're very close, but I do have Kanter slightly ahead of Ayton at this point. Now, you have Kanter continuing to play bigger minutes. You have obviously no Yusuf Nurkic still. You have no CJ McCollum still. You're getting the minutes out of him, 33 and 30 over the last couple of games. And he shot fine in that last game, unlike 2 games ago, but the price point is dropping because, okay, 2 games ago against Oklahoma City, he ends up getting there with 21 rebounds, but he only shoots 2 of 10, 20%, not good. The next game, he shoots 5 of 10, 15%, so that's better, but he only ends up getting out there for 4 rebounds. That's not going to withstand, right? The lowest rebounding numbers that we've seen out of Kanter, and that 4 is the lowest in a very long time, but since the last 2 weeks, the lowest we've seen is 8. So he's actually seen in that game, it's a clear outlier. 8 was his outlier before this. This is a guy getting 10 plus rebounds in basically every single game. So Kanter's price point is really not coming down. He's been like $7,000 for like the last couple of weeks. So maybe it drops like $100, but again, it shouldn't be coming down because everything's fine still. The minutes are there. The point per minute production is there. He's just had these 2 wonky games where in one game, he had a shit ton of rebounds and just terrible shooting. And then in the next game, he had fine shooting and just terrible rebounding rate. So he's had an outlier rebounding performance by a mile last time out. I'm going to go back to him now. Our top 8 plays as we get into number 8. Fellas. Hey. Zach Levine. Zach Levine with the slight price discount. You didn't think I was going to be on Zach Levine with the slight price discount? Look, I like this upper range a lot today. We kind of have some value early on, but man, is the top range loaded for a 5-game slate. You got Steph Curry. You got Lillard all the way up top. You obviously got LeBron with no AD, no Dennis Schroeder now, right? A somewhat banged up Kyle Kuzma at this point, although probable today. So if you take Lauri Markkanen off the court this year, we do have Wendell Carter back. He's played now 27 and 25 minutes over the last couple of games. Tough matchup against Joel Embiid. Last time out, got absolutely slaughtered by Joel Embiid's career night. But very quietly, Wendell Carter, he's not on this list, but very quietly, just keep him in mind. He's right off the list. So people say like, what do you think the next couple of guys are? Well, check in on Patreon. You can see my entire rankings and them updated all throughout the day for injury news, up and after lock as well. But very quietly in that game, he only played 25 minutes, had 3 personal fouls. They're still somewhat limiting in his minutes, although 27 and 25 over his last 2 games since returning 3 games ago. But he shot 13 times. He shot 7 to 13. So a lot of shot volume in that game. That's good to see for Wendell Carter, as his price point is now the lowest it's been since he's returned at 5,100. So Carter's like right off this list for me, at least pointing that out for his teammate here. But with no Lauri Markkanen on the court this season, you're going to be getting Zach Levine averaging 1.38 fantasy points per minute. You could even go a step further and take off Otto Porter, and then you get Zach Levine averaging 1.45 fantasy points per minute. That is insane numbers, especially when you're just $9,200, especially when you're going to be going up against Sacramento, and your price is dropping. This guy was just $9,500, then $94. Now he's $9,200, although the fantasy point per minute production is not changing. Yes, Wendell Carter Jr. is back, and yes, he's better than Daniel Gafford and Cristiano Felicio, or Felicio, whichever one you want to call that guy. But anyways, $9,200 Zach Levine, yes, a top 8 play for us because the man is averaging right now a 23% assist percentage, 36% usage with no Lauri and no Otto Porter, and that's how it's going to be today in a fine matchup, mind you, against the Sacramento team. Getting into our number 7 play today, it's going to be Draymond Green. I know what you're saying, and this was a guy yesterday who was a game time decision, so I would not be shocked if they rule him out today. Seems like he's dealing with some injuries, but as of right now, he is still expected to go out there, and with all the centers off the court this season, you're getting Draymond Green averaging exactly 1 fantasy point per minute, a beautiful assist percentage, not shooting well, does not get a lot of shot volume, but he's $6,600, and he's probably going to go out there and play somewhere around 34 minutes, averaging a fantasy point per minute. And we know what the upside is for Draymond Green. If you just get us 8 real life points, you're going to start hitting that 40-point range because you're getting week in or day in and day out around 10 assists. Night in and night out as the center now around 7 or 8 rebounds. Just get us 8 to 10 real points, have that double-double, triple-double upside. And now a matchup against Cody Zeller in Charlotte, and this is the thing. Draymond Green has been having to face these larger centers by far, right? And he's actually had some success. You look 3 games ago, or even let's go back 4 games ago, had some success against Vooch, plays 37 minutes. It's more so a minutes thing there, gets 36.5 fantasy points. And that's the other thing. He's been playing so far, like in games that stay close, 34 minutes, but the upside is 37, 38 minutes for him. They just don't have enough bodies. Okay, but then he goes up against Brooklyn with some bigger guys out there. They didn't play as small. DeAndre Jordan played like 26 minutes. Okay, he's a little bit overmatched in that type of a matchup. Goes up against Cleveland. There was no Andre Drummond, but it's still Jared Allen out there, still JaVale McGee. He has a fine game, 47 points. So he is okay against these guys, but then you get Vooch again. He doesn't play as well last night, scores about 28.5 fantasy points. The price point is still staying where it is right now at 6,600. I think there's still meat on the bone here. I think the somewhat small sample of like 5 or 6 games with no centers and 1 fantasy point per minute is actually low. I really do. I think it's low at this point because the guy's just not shooting at all at this point. He shot 2 of 5, 3 of 6, 2 of 5, and 3 of 7. I get it. This is not a guy who's taking 15 shots a game, but I do think that we can see a little bit more upside in terms of just getting the quality 5 of 8 shooting nights instead of him making 3 shots as the most baskets he's made in a game since these centers have been out. The double-double upside is just screaming you in the face if we can just get the scoring from him. We obviously have the rebounding upside. The man has a 34% assist percentage this year. So Draymond Green right now and his teammate Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins, they're both very close to being top 12 plays. Kelly Oubre goes off yet again, right? $6,800, getting bigger minutes though, right? One of the games went to overtime, 44 minutes, but now getting back-to-back games with pretty large minutes. Was going to play 39 in regulation in that one, played 36 in the last one. He's up to 6,800 over a fantasy point per minute producer now this year, 1.03 with the centers off the court. That's looking pretty good for Oubre. He's right off the list if people are wondering. And now as we get into our top 6 plays in the day, it'll start with Steph Curry, but I want to let you know about the other co-sponsor, presented in part as well by SuperDraft today. SuperDraft is going to be a multiplier format, and look, their contests on Saturdays. Fridays is a low day for fantasy. Saturdays is by far the lowest day. I saw a lot of people sign up last week from the community and had a lot of success. They have a contest today with $6,500. Not the biggest contest compared with what they're normally doing, but they know a lot of people won't fill this contest. $6,500. The contest might not fill at 70%. There might only be like 65% of people in there, which basically means in this type of a field, if it only fills at 70%, the other 30%, SuperDraft has to actually put the money in for that. So what that basically is equaling out to is if you played on DraftKings and 30% of the field, you play in a 100-person contest, 30 lineups in there, just put zeros in. That's probably what's going to be happening on SuperDraft today. So sign up over there. It's a multiplier format. We can help you out down below over on Patreon. Brandon Clark, if he starts, 1.6x multiplier is going to look strong. The 1.55x multiplier in Draymond Green is going to look strong. And a couple of guys as we go up to finish this up in this top 6, I'll point out some of my favorite SuperDraft plays early on today. If you go over there, it's linked in the description below this podcast or YouTube channel, or just go over to superdraft.io and you use the code SAL when you sign up, SAL. They will give you a free money bonus up to $500 Rooskies in a slow drip format, so be sure to check that out. All the information is down below. Again, the contests are not going to fill. If there's one spot that you should be putting your money first today, it is literally Super Draft. If you're going to be playing on a site that is specifically DFS focused, like a DraftKings or a FanDuel or Yahoo, you should be putting on a Super Draft first because the contest will not fill. Your ability to turn your $5, your $10, your $20 investment into the top prize of $6,500 today, into cashing and just doubling your money, is much higher when you literally might be facing a third less of the field that's going to be having all zeros in their lineup. That is the equivalent of when the contest does not fill and the site has to put the money in for it. Check it out. Promo code SAL, S-A-L, lets them know what you came from me. So our number 6 overall play is Steph Curry. And look, I like Steph Curry a lot today. We have some other guys up there like a Lillard and a LeBron, and maybe we'll talk about them as you continue to stay for this video. But Steph Curry's rebounding rate, look, all season long it's been around 15%, but now it's stabilizing night in and night out. Like there was these sways where some nights he would get 2, some nights he would go close to a triple-double, get you 8 or 9, right? But now it's just solid as these centers have been out. So a 15% rebounding rate is something we could rely on, but he's averaging 1.45 fantasy points per minute when nobody's hurt this year. But with all the centers off the court, because of that rebounding rate becoming a little bit more consistent, and he's seeing even higher overall just shot selection, he's averaging 1.52 fantasy points per minute. Some people might look at Steph and say, he's just shooting too well. He can't be a $10,000 plus player. Contraire, actually. He's getting a lot of shot volume, but he's actually not even shooting well right now. Steph Curry is getting you 58, 56, 50 fantasy points over the last couple of games, not even shooting that well. He's coming off of games where he shot 38% and 32%, but the shot volume is getting him there. 29 and 25 shot attempts. It's basically just him out there as a shooter, and then somewhat Kelly Oubre, who's mainly relying on drives and mid-range jumpers. You've literally had over the last two games for Steph, 36 three-point attempts, 16 and 20. So yeah, it doesn't matter when you're just making 6 of them because you're getting like 23 fantasy points just off of those. And oh yeah, the assists are still staying high. 11 and 11 over his last couple of games. Back-to-back games of 7 rebounds as well. So with the rebounding rate stabilizing at 15%, with the assist percentage right now looking lovely at 29%, and the fact that the volume is just screaming out at this point, Steph is number 6 overall for us at $10,000. He has bad shooting nights right now. He's literally not shooting well, and he's still just dropping 56 and 58 fantasy points. When the shooting is bad and the volume comes down, that's when he just scores 42 for you. But normally that's in a blowout or foul trouble. And that's not something I'm projecting for. So he's our number 6 overall play. Now let's get into the top 5. Number 5 overall is going to be Lamelo Ball at $8,800. Look, Lamelo Ball right now, there's no Devontae Graham. So that's the reason why you like Lamelo Ball. With Devontae Graham off the court, he averages 1.23 fantasy points a minute and 36 minutes per game. But some games, and recently he's been playing 37, 39 minutes with no Devontae Graham out there. His price point at $8,800, I'd much rather play than Terry Rozier, who has been playing fine, right? Getting bigger minutes because of no Devontae Graham, but $7,900 for Terry Rozier or an $8,000 price tag, not something I'm too fond to be getting to. But Lamelo Ball averaging a 26% usage rate with no Graham on the court, a 33% assist percentage, and a very nice 17% defensive rebounding rate, and over 3 blocks plus steals per game. 2.5 steals per 100 possessions for Mr. Lamelo Ball, which basically means you can kind of count in and project in another like 2 to 3 fantasy points, even higher sometimes, depending on who the other team is turnover percentage-wise. For Lamelo Ball, a 1.2x multiplier in Super Draft might not seem as appealing to presenting sponsor in part. It might not seem as appealing to start off when you're looking at this slate, but it actually has a lot of upside there, especially if Lamelo Ball gets one of those 37 or 38 minute games at 8,800, going to grade out very well. A very nice team total at 114.25, a nice pace environment against Golden State. Lamelo Ball is our number 5 overall play, assuming that the doubtful Devontae Graham is ruled out. Some other guys that didn't make the list, Miles Bridges, yes, he might play 30, 32 minutes now with no Devontae Graham out there, but he only averages 0.81 fantasy points a minute with him off the court. Malik Monk, a lot of people might want to go back to him, but he's in the 5K range. This is not $3,000 or $4,000 Malik Monk. If Monk plays 25, 26 minutes, which might even be high for this game in my opinion, he only averages 0.68 fantasy points per minute when Lamelo Ball's out there, when Gordon Hayward's out there, even if Devontae Graham's not out there, only 0.68 fantasy points per minute. So that's not that great. You might be thinking, oh, but I played him like 2 weeks ago and he did good. Okay, he did good on that one game. Look at what he's done in those other games, right? And now he's priced up to the 5K range. Look, there's a couple of narratives on this slate. Number 4 for us is Jimmy Butler. One narrative is that today you're going to be getting Damian Lillard versus Russell Westbrook, and we know that those guys basically hate each other. They're both really expensive. Westbrook 10K, Lillard the most expensive player on the slate, coming off of a 79 fantasy point day. But Jimmy Butler against this Lakers team, where Jimmy Butler was like the only guy that, remember, there's no Bam in the playoffs last year, right? They ended up having Goran Dragic hurt as well, or no Bam in the finals for most of it. Goran Dragic was hurt as well. Jimmy Butler put the team on his back. He's coming off of 3 straight triple-double games. This is the finals rematch. If you don't think Jimmy Butler's got a sour taste in his match, after taking this Lakers team to 6 games, basically by himself, he had to take Tyler Hero, rookie, Duncan Robinson, who really nobody knew who he was unless you were paying close attention to like DFS, and he had to do all of that. I think there's going to be something in the tank for Jimmy Butler today in a weekend game. I think you're going to get nice minutes somewhere around 34 minutes or so. Butler averaging 1.34 fantasy points per minute if you're just looking at what he's done so far in the year with no Goran Dragic on the court. But if you wanted to look at what he's done since the start of February, 1.4 fantasy points per minute, a 40% assist percentage, 21% defensive rebounding rate, and a 25% usage rate, all while shooting 56% true shooting. So right now, Very similar price points for Butler and Lamelo. I think Lamelo right now maybe has a higher ceiling to get you to 60 or 65, but it is a very close argument, especially when I can just say, well, Butler's had 3 straight triple-doubles and really should have 4 straight triple-doubles, just missed out on a rebound. So, yes, Butler and Lamelo at basically exact same price points. Very close to me, but I'll be going Butler slightly over Lamelo as our number 4 overall play right now. So the top 3 we go, and a guy who was featured yesterday in our top 3, and he paid off for you at 7,100. He gets you 37 fantasy points. It's going to be Jonas Valanciunas. Jonas Valanciunas, as it stands right now on the slate, my favorite center on the day. I'll take him over guys in a similar price range, over Cantor, over DeAndre Ayton for a couple $100 less. Those guys are. Jonas Valanciunas plays another 30 minutes yesterday. Jonas Valanciunas is now up to 1.34 fantasy points per minute this year. The rebounding rate has now spiked over 31%. He has been fantastic, and he's actually been really good at staying out of foul trouble. And now you're going to get a matchup against one of the worst rebounding teams in the league that I said. A lot of undersized power forwards, right? Cam Johnson plays power forward. Should probably be a 3. Jay Crowder plays power forward. Honestly, should probably be a 3 as well. Darius Sarge plays power forward, but he just stinks. He plays like 8 or 10 minutes a game, right? Jonas Valanciunas against DeAndre Ayton today, even if he just gets you 28 minutes, he's still way too underpriced. Anytime you can project out a guy who's averaging over 1.3 fantasy points per minute, like I just told you, they get there in different ways. Joval with the blocks and obviously the closer shots to the basket and rebounds, but I just told you Jimmy Butler has been tearing it up and has been averaging 1.35 fantasy points per minute this year, 1.4 fantasy points per minute over the last month. Jonas Valanciunas is averaging 1.34, and he's a whole $1,700 less than Jimmy Butler. Sure, Butler plays like an extra, on average, like 5 to 6 minutes per game, but Joval's been getting those 30 minutes. Even if you give him 28, he's way too underpriced here. My number 3 overall play for a guy I have projecting out today for 29 minutes of play, Jonas Valanciunas from Memphis. We're talking top 2, and he is 2. Nemanja Bjelica, last time out. Look, we were talking about it in the live stream, so here's the caveat, right? We didn't get to really talk about the injury news early on. My bad on that. So the injury news, let's scroll down to it real quickly for you. Harrison Barnes, who plays like 33 to 34 minutes a game. He's questionable today. And then Glenn Robinson III, who even in that last game with all these guys out, still played 22 plus minutes. He's questionable today. So right now I'm projecting in Glenn Robinson, and I'm projecting out those other 2 guys who missed the last game. And if that is indeed the case, if there's no Harrison Barnes, if there's no Rashawn Holmes, I like Bjelica. Bjelica got a lot of minutes at the 5. In that last game we saw, or at least a decent amount, in that last game we saw Hassan Whiteside only playing like 14 minutes off the bench, right? The game blew out. He got in a little bit of foul trouble. He was missing some free throws in the second quarter. It seemed like he got benched there. Marvin Bagley played a lot at the 4, and he only played 24 minutes total. So, I mean, overall, there was like 10 minutes to go around at center. He got those, and then maybe a little bit more as Bagley moved to the 5 as well. But now he's $4,700. The price point comes up $900. The matchup against Chicago is nice. Bjelica, for him to be the number 2 overall play today, you have to see Rashawn Holmes out, and you have to see Harrison Barnes out. If Glenn Robinson is out, even better, just from a minute security standpoint, but I just want Barnes out, and I want Rashawn Holmes out. Bjelica is a quality fantasy point per minute producer. You're going to be able to project him, like he's averaging 0.96 fantasy points per minute so far in the season. You don't even have to project him at that, right? Depending on who you take him off the court, he'll average over a fantasy point per minute. Let's just project him at 0.9, 0.86, 0.85. At 4,700 on a slate where we just went through everybody on this list, and not a single guy in my top 12 was below $5,000. Now he finally is. You just need value on this slate. He gives you a little bit of position flexibility as well with that power forward designation, especially if he plays some center minutes, but it's been nice. Look, the last 3 games that we've seen decent minutes out of him, he played 28 minutes against Orlando, scores over 35 fantasy points, right? 27 minutes, scores 17.5. Okay, he's going to probably play a little bit more than that today, and then he plays 35 minutes, and he's blowout proof as well. The game might not seem like it was a blowout because they only lost by 8, but they went on a 13-2 run in the final 2-3 minutes of the game. That's the only reason it was close. They were basically down in that game by like 20 with only 2 minutes left, so they go on a 13-2 run, but Bjelica checks back in the 4th quarter, and they say, hey, we don't got bodies. You're going back in the game. He plays 8 minutes and 43 seconds in that blowout-proof run, so that was nice to see. Now, the one concerning part could be that in that blowout time, when all the starters really for Miami ended up leaving the game, you saw Bjelica score 8 real-life points, made a 3-pointer, had an assist, and had a steal in that time. So Bjelica, yes, he had a pretty nice game last time out, but he picked up about 13 of his minutes in that blowout, or 13 of his fantasy points in that blowout run. But even if you say, okay, Bjelica, you're not even going to play the blowout run. You're going to not play these final 8 minutes. You're only going to play 27 minutes in the game. He still would have scored 30 fantasy points at $3,800. 30 fantasy points even tonight at $4,700. Yeah, I'll take that for sure. So Bjelica, if there's no Barnes and Holmes, that's what I need to see is going to be in play for me. If Bjelica, if those guys are in, Bjelica hops off this list completely, move everybody else up, and that's when you start to see guys like Gordon Hayward, some of these other Golden State guys, maybe even a Holmes himself start to top into our top 12, which you can track below on Patreon. Patreon.com/Sal_Vetri_. And the final guy on the slate today is LeBron James, Mr. LeBringus James himself at $10,200. No Dennis Schroeder, no Anthony Davis. I mean, it's just so simple. He should be $11,000 on this type of a slate. He's going to project out for the upper 50s in fantasy points for me. If I was to take off right now, I mean, he averages 1.45 fantasy points a minute. And then if you start to take off Anthony Davis, if you start to take off the second best producer on this team, Dennis Schroeder for around a fantasy point per minute, he plays 30 minutes a game. You get LeBron averaging around 1.5 fantasy points per minute. point. I think that might even go up. You got a little bit of a narrative from the NBA Finals. He averages right now a 38% assist percentage and 33% usage. LeBron, for me, I'm going to project him out in this game for around 36 minutes. I'm going to project him out for around 1.5 fantasy points per minute or 1.55, and he's just going to project out for like the upper 50s in fantasy points and look fantastic at 10,200. He is a number one play on this Saturday, lovely, comfy day. National Comfy Day itself. National Love Your Pet Day itself. National Muffin Day, but we'll call it the Pistachio Muffin Day itself. Thank you for being here. This was our top 12 plays. They'll be updated on Patreon. Thank you to the sponsors of our show, Jock Market, Fantasy Sports Media and Stock Exchange. Get in, check it out. There's links in the description below, both for Jock Market, how you can take advantage, and Superdraft, both sponsors of the show today. Any updates based on injury news and while I finalize the projections these next couple hours will be all available to you beautiful people out there on Patreon down below in the description. You are Rock Gang. Thank you so much. Be sure to check out the MMA video that's out in the podcast. Before that, those fights start tonight. NASCAR video that's out from Chris Pennell on this channel went out on Friday. Be sure to check that out before that event starts tomorrow on Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a beautiful, beautiful start to your Saturday.